By the time you hear this, the putrid son of a bitch Don, the orange vomit, I don't like to say his name, will have spoken at the NRA. And it was earlier this week, I think the day after the mass killing in Uvalde, Texas, that the NRA recommitted to holding its annual convention in Houston. God, I've never made it a secret that I am perfectly capable of feeling hatred, absolute hatred. And as far as I'm concerned, it's always directed at people who are causing other people to hurt or die or feel less than what they are. I hate bigotry and violence and death and war and murder and executions and lynching and racism and anti-Semitism and homophobia and anti-Muslim feelings. All of it. The effort, the attempt, successfully, it appears, is going to be of fascist Christians to take away from women sovereignty over their own bodies. It's quite a list. I understand that. And I've left some things off, of course. I hate hypocrites and liars and deceivers. I hate people who say one thing and do another. That's one of the reasons I hate the fascist Christians. They just turn my stomach. Now, I say that knowing that hate is not a good emotion to feel, although you'll get some argument on that. My grandmother tried to teach me that hatred was not something that one should carry around because, as she pointed out, quoting somebody someplace, hatred does more contamination and destruction to the vessel in which it's carried as opposed to the object upon which it's poured. Now, I get that. But the contradictory position to that is if you keep bottled up inside of you and keep it silent and choke it back, what obviously is horrifying and dirty and filthy and violent and ugly and anti-human, that can poison you as surely as carrying around hatred. So express it. And given those 2 points of view, my lifelong decision has been, well, at least as an adult, is to express it. If I see something that warrants hatred because it is so awful, I hate it. And to the poor souls who listen to this podcast, you witness that hatred. So, having said all that, I can say that for the organizers of the National Rifle Association, I feel nothing but, well, not true. I feel hatred, but I also feel contempt and disgust. And politicians from Texas, you know who they are, some of the worst in American politics, are scheduled to speak this weekend. Now, one of the speakers is the filthy, horrifying Donald Trump. And he's scheduled to address a leadership forum sponsored by the NRA's lobbying arm. A leadership forum from Trump, this murderous, rotten person. He was supposed to speak at the event earlier today. And audience members will not be allowed to carry guns. I guess for the fear that somebody might go in to the convention under the guise of being an NRA person or whatever and shoot the fucker. But the Secret Service is going to take control of the NRA convention during the Orange Vomit's speech and will not permit firearms, knives, firearm accessories, among other items. That's according to the NRA. So once again, I feel totally justified in hating these filthy son of a bitches. The hypocrisy, the cowardice, every single member of the NRA is a fucking coward. A coward. The only reason any man or woman is now a member of the NRA is, first of all, fear. And the second reason is more fear. They are a cowardly bunch of scum. They have no respect for themselves, for life, for the world. So they hide behind their big-ass guns. And they go to this circle jerk, this mutual masturbatory gathering led by the chief jerk-off in America, Donald Trump. Now, this policy of not allowing people with guns into the NRA convention predates the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. And it was in place when then Vice President and Trump fellator Mike Pence made an appearance at the 2018 convention. And by the way, the NRA released a statement earlier this week saying the convention would go on as scheduled. 19 little, Latino kids gunned down in Texas. Oh, well, hearts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, yeah, blah, blah, bullshit. In a statement, the NRA said, quote, although an investigation is underway and facts are still emerging, we recognize this was the act of a lone, deranged criminal. As we gather in Houston, we will reflect on these events. We will pray for the victims. We will recognize our patriotic members and pledge to redouble our commitment to make our schools secure. You fucking liars. You hypocritical cowards. You don't mean any of that, and you know you don't. See what I mean about pure hatred? And the Orange Vomit, for his part, he said earlier this week that he's going to deliver an important address to America. I wonder how much of it was written by the fascist Christians around him and the fascist Jew, Stephen Miller. Huh? Trump put out the word that, quote, America needs real solutions and real leadership in this moment, not politicians and partisanship, end quote. Oh, God, this guy. Greg Abbott, the sitting governor of Texas, will deliver a pre-recorded speech to the assemblage of cowardly pissants. Senator Rafael Cruz and Representative Dan Crenshaw, both of Texas, along with North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson and South Dakota Governor, the insane Q-bitch, another one, Kristi Noem. Crenshaw and Texas Senator John Cornyn both canceled their appearances due to what they called changes in their schedules. So Dan Crenshaw is not going to be there. Neither is John Cornyn. And some of the musicians, Don McLean, who's still around, he of American Pie fame, right? That fucker must be in his 80s. He released a statement saying it would be, quote, hurtful and disrespectful for him to perform. And the mayor of Houston, Sylvester Turner, said, Some people wanted the city to cancel this circle jerk of cowardly Christian fuckhead fascists. But Mayor Turner said the city can't break the contract with the NRA. And the greater question, according to the mayor of Houston, is why Texas politicians, still plan to speak after the shooting in Uvalde. The mayor said, quote, "So it's not about us canceling the convention. It's about elected officials at the highest level in our state speaking and endorsing those policies, and that's wrong. And you can't pray and send condolences on one day and then be going and championing guns on the next." End quote, the mayor of Houston. Well, Mayor Turner, with all due respect, you don't quite understand, and I hate to say this because you're a black man and you know more about this kind of shit than I will ever know, but it seems you don't understand the hypocrisy of these white devils. They can say any fucking thing they want to, Mr. Mayor. They're Christian devils. They can say and do anything. They can lie, cheat, steal. It makes no difference because, you see, they are fascist Christians. And their religion gives them permission to do that. So, Mayor Turner, I know you are a Christian too, but you are not a fascist Christian. And one of the reasons you are not is because of your skin color. So maybe you don't understand, although I'm sure you do, about why elected officials at the highest level in the state of Texas are speaking before this convention of assholes and cowards. Well, just a few days ago, these same white politicians were whining and trying to show that they too are bleeding through their pores over these poor little kids who were killed, like they give a fuck. Come on, Mr. Mayor, you know as well as I do. They do not care. It's hard to say which of these Republican slime and their responses to this latest mass shooting was the worst. Paul Krugman thinks it was Ted Cruz, maybe. He says the reliably awful Senator Rafael Cruz attracted considerable attention by insisting that the answer is to put armed guards in schools, even though Rafael Cruz seems to not understand that Uvalde's school system has its own police force and officers who apparently were on the scene acting like fucking cowards when this murderer arrived. And the Buffalo supermarket shooting that killed 10 of our black cousins just 10 days earlier also had an armed security guard, Raphael, you fucking moron. And he was killed because his gun was no match for that murderer, that white devil's murderer's body armor. But I agree with Paul Krugman that the worst and most chilling response to this slaughter of 19 children and 2 school teachers came from a fascist Christian who will be in church this Sunday worshiping his fucked up God, and his name is Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor of Texas. Because Patrick said, what we need to do is harden these targets so no one can get in, ever, except maybe through one entrance. I mean, you only go in through one entrance, you dumb fucker, you. That's all you can do. You can't go through 2 entrances at the same time, you half-witted moron. And anyway, that restriction would have horrifying consequences, say in the event of a school fire. But in any case, think about Dan Patrick, the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, his language. As Krugman points out, quote, in a nation that's supposedly at peace, we should treat schools as targets that need to be hardened. That's what this fucker Dan Patrick said. Harden these targets so no one can get in. So what would that do to public education? Public education has been one of the defining experiences in this country for generations. Public education. But not to worry, says a writer for The Federalist. This asshole wrote, families can keep their kids safe by resorting to homeschooling. You miserable people, you miserable, rotten people. You rotten people. You white, rotten people. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.